Welcome, scrappers and recyclers, to Shark Scrapper Live, where every Sunday we're talking about things that are going on in the precious metals market, industrial metals market. We have a safety tip for the week, and we just explore the things that go on during the week as they influence our wonderful world of scrap and recycling. It is great to be here. We've had a most interesting week for sure. So just a lot of stuff going on that we need to talk about. And man, this time zone change is annoying as all get out. So we're probably going to have a bit of a gap between here and Ireland at the end of the show. That's all right. It'll give you a chance to freshen up your drinks and your snacks before you go to Ireland. All right. Well, I want to say hello to everybody who's joined us already. Roger at CU Scrapping, Eways Mike, Richard Hulbert. Welcome, everybody. Great to have you all here. JD's Recycling, Electronic Scrapper. Awesome. Great to have everybody on board. All right. Well, we're going to just get right into it here. So our precious metal for this week is behaving rather interestingly. So let's go ahead and jump over here to silver. So once again, I need to state that I am not sponsored by APMEX. I don't get any kind of benefit from this. I just happen to like their charts. But I do use APMEX when I buy and sell my physical gold and silver. And I always recommend that everybody have some physical gold and silver in their portfolio for a lot of reasons. There's plenty of good online places you can use, Kitco, JM Bullion. Those are two more. I just happen to have used APMEX a lot. I trust them, and I've had no issues at all with them. All right, so silver, we're at 85.25. We're up 2.16% for the month. We're looking at the 1 month chart here. And you can see that we had sort of an early drop off from the spike that we had in silver. It started climbing back up, and then the war in the Middle East takes hold, and now it's looks like it's going down on this chart. But we're going to take a much closer look at this. If we look at the 1 year, we see this really awesome spike that some of us were able to take advantage of to cash out some of our silver and put ourselves in a really good place. Then we had the sudden drop as investors took profits off the table. And now we've had a lot of volatility going on in here, not the least of which was this war in the Middle East. So let's take a closer look at what's going on here. Let's go over trading economics, because that gives us quite a bit more that we can do with the charts. Now, I do want to let everybody know also that I'm not sponsored by Trading Economics either. I, in fact, pay them, so I'm on their paid side. They have a free side. You just can't do as much with it. And there's some other interesting things that I can get on the pay side of Trading Economics. This is a 1 year chart for silver. And when we go to look at the chart types, we're going to go over here to the candlesticks, and each candlestick is going to represent 1 day of trading. So let's take a look at this part here. Let's zoom in on that part of the chart. So you can see that we had this massive buildup in silver. We spiked over 121, and then it crashed down. We saw that when we were looking at the APMEX. This is a little more granularity to that. You can see that crash came pretty much in 1 day of trading. And then silver has been sort of bouncing around here trying to figure out what's going on. And, you know, the interesting thing here is When the war in the Middle East was started up, you would have expected that traders would go to safe havens and gold and silver would go up. But silver did not follow gold necessarily in the safe havens. So throughout the week, I was watching this and I thought it was really interesting how this played out. What we saw going on, and we'll see right here in this summary discussion. Um, the surprise drop in non-farm payrolls here in the U.S. triggered a flight to safety, though the metal remains on track for a weekly loss due to early geopolitically driven strength in the U.S. dollar. So this is the weird stuff that's going on because of the oil prices and the conflict. That was going to push or is pushing U.S. Treasuries higher. So some investors are like, "Oh, I'm going to take advantage of the higher interest rates." When you see interest rates going up or the potential for them to go up, well, you don't want to be stuck in silver or gold because they're not interest bearing. So some investors went into the US dollar anticipating the increased interest rates that they could take advantage of. Well, it's a mixed bag. So there's some confusion out there, and that's going to continue to play out as we watch the silver market and the gold market, but the silver market because it's not following gold quite as closely as you would have expected here. So the silver market is a tad bit confused as we bounce around these highs between the mid 90s and the 70s. So we're going to be in this 80s area here. Let's take a look and see what are we looking at for a long-term forecast for silver. Well, they're still forecasting it to get back up over $100. So for the quarter, 85.4 by the end of the quarter and 101 in the next 12 months. All right, so that's a pretty good signal. That's, it's better than it being flat or going in the other direction for sure. But there's going to be some volatility that's going to play out here for a while. So we're going to have to deal with this volatility here with silver for a while. And so I know that some of you are thinking to yourselves, well, should I take the risk and maybe buy some silver? We're down here in these 80s. Maybe look for it to drop down a little bit and then buy in, anticipating that it's going to get over 100 again. If you don't have much silver and you want to try to increase your holdings, maybe that's a game that you could play. It's a little bit risky right now, so do be a little bit careful with that approach. Of course, in the scrap and recycling world, many of you are doing precious metal recovery yourself, so you're recovering your silver from things like silver contacts, silver mylars. And so then your question becomes, do you sell that silver that you've been accumulating, or are you going to hold it again? And at this point, there's no reason not to hold it if you don't need the cash flow. So everything points to silver going up. And as this conflict over in the Middle East continues, it's just going to drive more investors into safe havens. So you fully expect to see silver continue to increase, maybe not as steeply as gold, but certainly keep moving up. Okay, let's take a look at what you all have to say. And I wonder what happens if I can't really zoom in when I'm on the forecast side of things. So let's go back here to summary. Let's open this back up again like this. And let's leave it here while we check in on the comments and see what everybody's got to say here. Um, let's see, anybody join us? Lumpy Wi-Fi B is in the house. Lumpy, welcome. Great to have you on board. Looking for any silver comments going on here. So I believe that Richard is trying to make the argument that volatility in the precious metals market and the marriage game is has some similarities. Oh man, that's kind of funny, Richard. Oh, that's a crack up. Uh, Roger saying he added another 10 ounces of unrefined to his hoard last night. Very cool. Great to add a little bit more in there, isn't it? Yeah, I've really been enjoying researching the precious metal recovery. Um, our friend Scrapping Irish put me onto this book, a really old book by C.M. Hoke. Um, was written in 1940, so it's really interesting to see some of the let's just say some of the differences in what was considered normal practice and safety and environmental concerns and things like that in 1940 compared to now. And I was able to find an edited edition of the book where the editors tried to clean it up a little bit. I mean, they still had all the original language of the book. But they would line out through things that were dangerous, unsafe practices. They would make you aware of stuff that probably isn't what you ought to be doing anymore these days when it comes to silver or precious metal refining. So I'm really enjoying doing all the research while I am in my physical therapy recovery from my knee surgery. I went back and read a basic chemistry book again. So kind of like started out at Chemistry 101 and am reading a number of books and looking at various sources, online and such on precious metal recovery so that when I am back in the game, we'll be adding that into the mix. So, um, yeah, Roger, they still talked about, yes, they talked about using mercury in the book and in the process. So, and arsenic. So yeah, mercury and arsenic, we're still in that discussion. And it is funny how they talk about dealing with the vapors and those kind of things. So yeah, really interesting how the times change a bit in there. You know what I tell you? Let's do here real quick. I want to talk. I meant to do this earlier with the silver discussion. So let's. I'm going to put this. I'm going to go back here to the AppMex chart, and I want to bring up the. I want to take a look at the gold to silver ratio. So gold to silver ratio had gotten down here to the mid 40s. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the term, the gold to silver ratio is simply how many ounces of silver would it take to buy an ounce of gold or vice versa. So back here in the end of January, you could trade 40-ish ounces of silver to get an ounce of gold. And had you done that, you would have then been able to turn around and appear in February, mid February, trade that ounce of gold and pick up 60 ish ounces of silver. So you would have increased your silver holdings. Now, that's if you could have found someone to do that trade, because if you had to go into cash and then gold and then back to cash, well, you would lose a lot in the margins there. So um, this is just, if you had a local coin dealer or pawn shop or someone that you work with that would have been willing to actually do the trade instead of first converting it to cash. So then we drop down to mid 50s, and now we're up into the 60s. So this is just in this 1 year. If we look at the gold to silver ratio for as long as they have data here, we see that we're still in a pretty low period here. And so there could be an argument to be made that says maybe this is still a good time to trade some of your silver for gold in anticipation of the gold to silver ratio getting up here into 80s and 90s, even up to 100 again. Um, Now, again, the margins play big into this. And so even with a trade, there's going to be some margin that the person you're trading with is going to want to be careful of. But if you're concerned that you're not going to be able to get a decent amount of money, with your silver right now, but you do want to be prepared to be able to, trade in this world, then you might want to be thinking about trying to do a trade. So you trade some of your silver for an ounce of gold. That gets you into the gold, and then you can look for the gold values to keep going up. And, if we look at that discussion of what's been going on with gold, here you can see that gold has been on a nice steady climb. So, there might be something to that, to making that gold to silver trade. There's plenty of industrial investors, corporate investors that play that game. There's no reason why we can't play that game on a smaller scale. All right. Well, let's get over here to our safety topic for the week, because it's an interesting one. It does not necessarily involve your physical safety per se. It's not like this is necessarily going to draw blood, although it can be very damaging. And we're talking online safety. Your electrons that are out there that you deal with every day. Now, there's a lot of reasons why, as you know, my safety topics are almost always driven by something that occurs during the week. And I did have a couple of folks that I know that they had some challenges this last week or so with online issues. Now, fortunately, they're pretty savvy people, and so they recognized that something wasn't right, and they dug a little deeper and they avoided some of their what could have been a really bad thing, right? So, essentially, they got emails that were telling them that a PayPal transaction couldn't go through. Please click here to update your bank account information. Right. Another one was another kind of payment scam. It wasn't with PayPal. It was with somebody else, but it was the same kind of thing. There was an email that said, "We weren't able to process your payment. Please click here to update your account information." Now, what was interesting to me was that because I just had my bank send me an updated credit card. And with the updated credit card that had new information on it, um, I've had to go in and update a lot of my accounts because it changed some of the information that those accounts had for auto pays. So it was interesting to me that that this just the way this timing of the week played out, and that's why we're talking about the online safety. So what do you do? Well, the first thing you do is never, never, never click on an email link unless you are 100% sure that the person that sent you the email is the person that you know associated with that. So, for instance, people send me pictures to look at to identify, and they'll make a comment in one of my videos about, I've got these boards, I don't know what it is. So I'll tell them to, go ahead and send me a picture. I'll see the email pop up over on sharkscrapper@gmail.com. I'll see the name associated with it. And I'll know to myself, oh yeah, that's so and so. They wanted me to take a look at some pictures that they were going to send. So it's relatively safe for me to take a look at those pictures, right? But if I just get an email out of the blue from somebody saying that a transaction didn't go through, please update my account, I am not clicking on that link at all. Now, sometimes these people can be really good at making it look like they're from your bank or PayPal or YouTube or whoever. Still, don't do it. Instead, go to that service provider, go to their known website that you usually use, and then click into your account and log in through your normal process on that account the way you are used to doing it. And there you will be able to see if you need to update any information or if you have a pending charge that didn't go through or something of that nature. Um, to help you even more with this, you want to make sure that you do have at least two-factor authentication turned on. Two-factor authentication is sort of like a minimum security protocol anymore these days. And essentially the way that's going to work is you will put in your user ID and your password. And then the service provider or whoever you're logging into will ask which way you want to authenticate. A lot of times it's a text message, it might be a phone call. So you say, yes, send that text. And then they will text you a code that you then enter into the site. And so it's a loop, it's an additional security loop because you've logged into the site. That site has now reached out to you via another independent means that you have set up, maybe your cell phone, maybe another account, whatever, and sent you a random number that you then enter back in that allows you to log into your account. So it's a way for them, the service provider, to know that it's you and for you to know that it's your service provider. So always, always, always use two-factor authentication with your really sensitive information. I tell you, like Roger says here, he really hates. Let's see. I hate when they do that. They need to develop a way. Yeah. Well, okay. So I get it. Roger, I saw the first part of your statement, and I thought you were going to say that you really hate hackers that do this kind of stuff. But I agree. It gets when your credit card gets updated, and you have to change all that information. It is kind of annoying. So let's see and he follows that up with, if I lose a card, if I had a personal account, they could cut me a new card right in the bank the same day. since I have a business account, I have to wait a week for them to send a new card. Yeah, yeah. I mean, business account and personal accounts are different. Um, and it's also, when if you lose your card or you think it's stolen, there's a whole other set of security protocols that the bank is going to go through to make sure that if that card is possibly compromised, that they can shut it down and further protect you. But yeah, it is going to be different for a personal account versus your business account. And it's just really annoying um, that we have these hackers and these people that are just keep trying to, steal your money, and they just keep finding new ways to try to steal. I mean, they're thieves. And I don't like thieves. Period. I hate people that play that game. Uh, you know, it's like that I have a little bit of understanding for the, somebody's starving to death and they go in and they, try to, steal a piece of fruit or some bread or, whatever from the grocery store so that they can survive. That's a very different thing from these hacking groups, which are, organized crime, sometimes state sponsored, and all they're doing is just robbing us blind. And they're doing it across the board, whether it's little folks like us all the way up to large corporations. And it's ridiculous what goes on. I hate it. And I really feel like when they catch these hackers, they ought to skin them alive and draw and quarter them, kind of thing. I mean, it's that terrible. I mean, the billions of dollars that get lost uh, in the economy because of these kind of actions. All right, so you don't click on links that you get in your emails. You have two-factor authentication going on. If you are savvy enough to set up firewalls or VPNs that they may or may not be, effective depending upon how you've done it, who you're working with. There are things you can do, the spam blockers and such that are out there. Depending upon which service you decide to buy into, they may or may not eat up resources on your PC that can cause you some issues down the line. So I'm not gonna recommend any of them to you because there's plenty of places where you can go online, even go to Consumer Reports and get technical details of which of these services do a better job of blocking spam and hacker attempts and that kind of stuff. So take a look at those. Get the services that you're comfortable with getting. Um, I have one that is specifically on Shark Scrapper because, as you can imagine, a business email account, I get tons of spam emails. And yeah, sometimes I have to go into the spam to find the real ones. But this service that I have does a pretty good job of separating out which ones are legit versus which ones are just a pure waste of time spam. Um, and then there's the ones that they're not trying to steal anything from you, but it's the spammy advertisements. Being a YouTube creator, I'm constantly getting folks that want to, oh, I can make a better thumbnail for you. I can give you increase your views and clicks with SEO and that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's just people trying to get money from me. It's all that is. So it's another, yeah, it's another challenge involved there. So, um, but those services are out there. So think about getting something like that. Whether you get the free ones or the paid ones, that's up to you. And again, I'm not going to make any recommendations because that's way beyond my level of expertise. I'm just going to suggest that you look into them and think about getting something to help protect you from these online threats. And if you don't know where to look to see what's better than others, well, there's plenty of online searches you can do. Consumer Reports is really good for that kind of information. So definitely want to take advantage of and look for those kind of services to protect yourself. The other thing that I would suggest you do is if you have older people in your family or your friend circle, help them out. A lot of times, older folks have struggle when it comes to online scams and challenges and such. So just keep an eye out for them, help them out a little bit, talk to them about what they should be looking out for, the way that they could be taken advantage of. Because sometimes, folks that aren't used to this online community and all the games that get played in this online community, they can be very easily taken advantage of. And those of us that are a little bit more savvy in that, we can help them out some and try to keep them a little bit safer as well. All right. So let us now get over to our industrial metal for today. And I decided to go with this one because things have gotten really interesting in what had been an otherwise kind of boring metal for us. So we're going to be talking aluminum. We're back over on the Trading Economics website again. And look at this. Now, this is a 1 year chart. And when I call up the candlesticks, we're going to be seeing 1 day of trading represented by each candlestick. I'm going to zoom in on just this part of the chart here, though. I want to point out that what we saw going on for aluminum had been a nice slow rise, and we had been talking about how things going on in China and the supply side with mines and smelters and stuff was starting to impact the availability of aluminum, and that was keeping the prices rising. But then we saw this volatility that started playing in here on aluminum. And so, yeah, things are starting to get kind of interesting now with aluminum. I'm gonna zoom in here on this later part of the year. All right, so here we're going basically December through now. And we look up here and we see aluminum futures in the UK have surged to 3,350 per ton in March, the highest in nearly 4 years, as the outbreak of the war in the Middle East magnified an already tight supply backdrop. Okay, so remember, we had been talking about for several months now, we were talking about the supply side issues of aluminum, leading to a relatively steady increase in the price of aluminum. Now things get really difficult with the war because on top of that supply challenge, now you have roughly 8 to 9% of the aluminum supply being cut off. So what am I talking about? Right here, I'll bring up this chart real quick. This came from Bloomberg. And what we can see is that the Gulf states Gulf states significant players in the aluminum sector, 6.2 million tons. All right. So what we're talking about is roughly 8 to 9% of the aluminum coming out of Bahrain, Qatar, and they've had to shut down their operations because of this war. So they're implementing what's called force majeure. They're saying there's a war going on, so they're shutting down their operations, and that is causing some problems. Plus, you have the Straits of Hormuz being shut down. So there's this, there's it's more than just oil that goes through the Straits of Hormuz. All right, so they've stopped aluminum refining activity, and they're risking the suspension of operations in the region that produces 10% of the global supply. Qatar halted its aluminum operations with Norsk Hydro in the country, and Bahrain's Alba declared force majeure. So, additionally, warehouses were isolated from their clients as Iran attacked the cargo ship. So you've got stuff sitting in warehouses and people can't get to it. So elsewhere, you have the output in China is going to stall as it surpasses the cap of 45 million tons that was set by their government. And when the Chinese producers tried to move to other places outside of China, they've run into a lot of energy and environmental concerns. And those energy concerns are now getting even more exacerbated because, as we all know, as we've talked about a lot, primary aluminum consumes a lot of energy. In order to extract aluminum from ore and get the primary aluminum, it takes a lot of electricity, a lot of energy, and that makes secondary aluminum, what we produce in the recycling world, a lot more economical. So now we have this very interesting situation here in the US and in Europe where secondary aluminum may become even more valuable. Because you have the combined effects of a reduction in the aluminum supply, and especially here in the U.S., we were getting a lot of our aluminum from the Middle East, and now we're going to have to go to some other more expensive places. And on top of all that, we have tariffs on the aluminum. Plus, you have the oil that is not flowing out of the Middle East, and that oil and that natural gas is the energy suppliers is the energy supply that a lot of places need to make the aluminum. So secondary aluminum, which uses 95% less energy, now becomes quite a bit more attractive for manufacturers if they can still produce the quality of the material that they need to make. So I would not be at all surprised if we saw the prices for aluminum start to go up at our recycling centers. And I'm curious if any of you have seen this at your recycling centers. Have the prices for your aluminum gone up at all, or what's going on with them? Let's take a real quick look at the forecast for aluminum. Yeah, it's still going up. What are they saying? Aluminum is expected to trade at 3,437 by the end of the quarter, and 3,606 in the next 12 months. So a good steady increase in aluminum. We're going to have a bit of volatility going on. Oops, can't do that. A bit of volatility going on here as the world deals with this war. And depending upon how long the war lasts, well, that could have even more impact on aluminum. All right. So the other thing that has been interesting in the aluminum side of the discussion is, I don't know how many of you here in the United States have been seeing these town halls where they're trying to shut down AI data centers from being built in certain areas. So you have certain communities who are jumping in, saying, "Hey, wait a minute, we don't want that AI data center here. You're going to suck up a lot of electricity. It's already too expensive. It's just going to drive up the prices of our utilities. So yeah, we don't want you here." That starts to play into because AI data centers require a lot of aluminum and a lot of copper. So you've now we've also got that complexity layered on top of the supply side challenges and the energy side challenges. So aluminum has some really interesting conflicts going on right now. And I can just imagine what it must be like at a trading desk. If you're one of these big, metal trading desks and you're trying to figure out, holy cow, what's the price of aluminum going to be next week, next month, 3 months from now, so that you know whether you should be trying to play a short game, a long game, where do you play? Yeah, it's a mess out there right now. But that mess, I believe, is good for us because I believe that's going to help us in the scrap world to get better prices for our aluminum. Uh, let's see, what do we got here? We have Enchanted Forest Jim. By the way, welcome, Enchanted Forest Jim. Great to have you on board. Haven't looked at the price for aluminum lately, but this batch of LED tiles I'm working on is going to net me 2 or 3 pickup loads of clean cast aluminum. So I'm hopeful that it keeps going higher. Yeah, absolutely. I hear you. I hear you on that. Roger is usually really well plugged in. Roger, what do you got going on here? Waiting for them to reconfirm the swapping of the stadium lights. Oh, okay. All right. You're Roger, man. He makes out on something. Roger's got some great contacts. And, Roger is a great example of what you can accomplish when you just start reaching out to people. Get your name out there, hand them your business card, hand them a flyer, tell them what you do. And it's amazing what that can lead to. For those of you that don't know, he does business with some factories in the area. So it's just amazing the stuff that Roger can come up with in his scrapping world. And you just got to get out there and talk to people and put yourself out there so you can continue to generate those kind of sources. We'll keep an eye out, see if anybody comes up with some more comments on aluminum prices and what they're seeing out there. I got to be honest with you, I have no idea because I'm not taking anything to the scrapyard because I'm not doing any scrapping right now. The shark cage is in storage, and I am focusing on physical therapy to recover from my knee surgery. And I tell you what, knee replacement surgery is tough. Physical therapy is tough. We're making good progress. I had a really good team of physical therapists that, right after surgery, that day they were in there working with me in the hospital. I was released the next day, and I had an in-home physical therapist for about 2 weeks, and she was fantastic. She did a good job of keeping me moving, working on increasing the flexibility. And now I'm doing outpatient physical therapy, and they're doing a fantastic job. But you got to do it yourself too, because they're only going to see you a couple times a week, and you've got to do those exercises yourself every day, 2, 3, 4 times a day, depending upon what program they set you up with. And it hurts. I'm just going to flat out tell you, it hurts, right? Because you are stretching muscles and tendons and ligaments that have been compensating for your bad knee for a few years, and you've got all that scar tissue that's building up from the surgery that they did. So yeah, it's not fun. It is not fun, but you got to keep doing it. The more you do it, the less it will hurt over the long run. So yeah, it's the physical therapy is challenging. But keep at it. If you ever have these kind of surgeries, if you ever have surgery of any sort, and the physical therapist is in there telling you what to do, then absolutely make sure you're keeping up with your physical therapy. Uh, oh man! So little inside joke here, Enchanted Forest Gym. Maybe everyone who saves those canned pull tabs will finally be able to turn a profit on that. It's funny, but it's something to think about. It's like the folks that have places where they get a deposit return on their aluminum cans. You will get more money back from the deposit than you will from the recycled can. But what a lot of those folks will do is they'll pull the tab off of the aluminum can because they'll still get the full deposit. But then they also get that little tab that's aluminum that they can add up. So it's kind of a fun joke that goes on in this live stream chain because you've got Scrapping Irish who's out there pulling the tabs off, and then you've got other folks like, well, so for instance, where I live, they don't have a return deposit tab, that I can get on the aluminum cans. So I just take the aluminum cans to the scrapyard. It's a pretty good price for aluminum cans. Um, Aluminum cans, by the way, most of you know this, but aluminum cans are one of those things gets recycled the fastest of just about anything else. I mean, within 30 to 90 days, those aluminum cans will be brand new aluminum cans again. So they get recycled very quickly. But anyway, it was a fun joke about the tabs with the aluminum cans. I saw that Jill is lurking. Jill, welcome. Great to have you here. Kerosene Cucumbers is in the house. And Kerosene Cucumbers had both done in the spring of 2021. Yeah, I keep wrestling with what's going to happen with the other knee, right? Because both my knees were in pretty bad shape. The right knee was in really bad shape. And so my doctor has said, look, we're not going to schedule anything right away. We want to let you get strong again. And then we'll see once you're strong again where that takes us. Because it might be that when my right leg is good and strong again, it may relieve enough of the pressure on the left leg that it doesn't have to get worked on as quickly. Or it may be that it just feels so good once it's operating and doing what I want it to do that I'm like, yeah, let's get this other one done right away. In which case we're delaying opening the shark cage yet again. So yeah, we're waiting to see what happens there. John Anderson 2632. Welcome, John. Great to have you here. Question about taxes and recycling. I was told any scrapyard, when I asked them if they send out 1099s at the end of the year, and they told me no, it's considered recycling, so you don't have to pay taxes. All right, so here's the thing. The answer is it depends, but most places in the U.S. that is true. And a lot of the scrapyards are on a cash basis anyway, so it would be your responsibility to report that income. So the answer is it depends, and I'm sorry that I have to waffle like that, but it is very true in a lot of places here in the United States that the buying and selling of recycled goods is not taxable. Now, having said that, because I'm a small business, I have to report all of my income and my expenses. And so my report to my accountant shows the scrap goods that I bring in, that I buy, and those are cost of goods for me. And then the stuff that I sell, is scrap that is sold. All right. So because I'm a business, my accountant has to treat those things differently than they would if I was just doing it as a hobby. So if you're a hobby scrapper um, and you make that money from recycled goods, well, you may or may not be able to not report it. Technically, in the United States, you have to report all income, regardless of where it comes from. So then you would have to dive into the tax law and see that if that income was from recycled materials, are you allowed to then deduct it? So it gets a little bit complicated there, okay? But from the perspective of your tax of your scrapyard not giving you a 1099, that makes perfectly good sense because they're not going to do that. And if they've told you, yeah, we're not doing it, it's a non-taxable transfer, from their perspective, that's absolutely correct. Now, whether or not you have to pay taxes on that income, that's a different thing. So I would be very careful. I would, if I were you, I would, I would check with an accountant, a tax specialist on how that's going to get handled. And I know that probably isn't what you wanted to hear because you don't want to pay somebody to have to, do that for you. But the good news is maybe you just pay somebody, 1 year to confirm for you that uh, those that you don't have to, report those taxes, and then you're good. Um, but generally speaking, generally speaking, the IRS demands that you report all your income, and then you deduct out the stuff that you can. So that's the way you want to. That's the way you need to look at it. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so kerosene cucumbers are saying that they're really glad they did both knees. I get it. I understand. Yeah, I'm probably going to be leaning in that direction myself. Roger's saying that physical therapists are angels on earth, masochistic angels. Yeah, I hear you. And most of them have a pretty good sense of humor about it. Um, but it is very, very important work that they do. Um, I, uh, I like to say that in the world of the people that treat us medically, you have the doctors. They're the specialists, and they get paid a lot of money, but they only they're dealing with you for maybe a few hours, right? My knee replacement surgery was like 3 hours, right? Then you have all the nurses that are in there. They're taking care of you for days to a week or so, depending upon the surgery. And then you have the physical therapists who are dealing with you for weeks and months after you get out of that surgery. So it's like this progression of the people that help you to get better. Let's see. Looking at some more comments as they're coming up. Enchanted Forest Jim is saying, yeah, I'm fortunate enough to be a small seller. My local yard doesn't even bother to take my name down. And they leave the tax evasion to your own conscience. um, so, again, and that's going to depend, again, on where you live. There are some states where they are required to get a photo ID, get your signature. A lot of times you'll get an electronic receipt that you have signed that says that you are legally allowed to sell all the material that you've sold to the scrapyard. In some states, they only have to do that if you're selling controlled items of some sort. So catalytic converters, batteries, HVAC, coils and things of that nature. So a lot of it depends on the state and your local authorities on what records your yard has to keep. And don't be surprised if it changes because the laws change all the time. If there's a big theft issue develop, then the first thing that the lawmakers do is crack down on the scrap yards and tell them you have to keep track of everything, which means now small scale scrappers get caught up in that, and you're providing your driver's license, your license plate, and everything else so they can keep track and try to mitigate theft. Um, so yeah, depending upon where you are, they may not care at all. You drop off your steel, you get your cash, and you're out of there. But other places, yeah, you may be doing everything from looking into a camera to signing a statement that says, yeah, you're legally allowed to sell everything. Let's see, pay? No, no. Yeah, I know some of you. Some of you would never stand for actually buying scrap. Um, yeah, you're welcome. It's a complicated issue, and I don't want you to get caught sideways with the IRS because you never win when that happens. You never win. Uh, um, Freedom scraps. That was one of the questions I started with due to getting unemployment. They have to track tag numbers and IDs, but they don't turn that info in unless there's a theft involved. Yeah, again, it's going to depend on your yard, and usually you're right. It's they're not sending any records in at the end of the year. It's if there's an issue, the police show up, and then they can pull all those records if they need to. Um, in fact, when I was in Florida, and I had my shop in Florida, I actually had the police come visit me, and they wanted me to. They said that if I was going to buy computers, any electronics from consumers, I had to get this software that would automatically connect to the sheriff's department, and all that stuff would upload at the end of the day. So the answer was easy. I just didn't buy anything from consumers. I did all business to business transactions. And because I was doing all business to business transactions, um, my records of the sale to the business were sufficient. Because if they ever needed to track something down, they would just go to the business that I bought it from or that I sold it to. So I did zero consumer purchases when I was in Florida. North Carolina is very different, and out here in Western North Carolina, it's very different. I don't have to have those kind of records out here, and I'm also not operating on a scale that it becomes an issue. But yeah, in Florida, that was going to be an issue, and that software was really expensive. So yeah, I'm glad we didn't go down that road in Florida. Hey, Scrapping Irish, welcome, man. I think we probably have about an hour before you get going. Confirm that if you would, please. So I might go on for a little bit here. If I'm doing the math right, which could be very wrong, I don't know. Um, it's almost 3 o'clock here, but I don't, with the time change. Anyway, Irish, let me know if you're getting ready to get started in a few minutes. Let me know, and I'll wrap this up. John, that's how it is in Oregon for everything but steel. Okay. Yeah. Ba, 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 ba. 3-day waiting period before they cut you a check. That's another thing that they'll do in order to try to mitigate crime is they'll give you that waiting period. So not only do they get all the information from you, but they're also going to write you a check, which is another way of tracing things. And they make you wait so that because the police have a window where they can come in and get the information from the scrapyard. And after that window, then the scrapyard is not on the hook if they pay you. So yeah, there's a lot of that goes on. A lot of that. American Order saying buy nothing but offer a tip. Yeah, well, it again, if you are doing this as a hobby, then by all means, you can make the decision that you're not going to ever pay for scrap. But as a small business, I would not be able to bring in enough material, especially being specialized in electronic scrap the way I am. I would never be able to bring in enough material to make the business worthwhile if I wasn't buying material. So, in the business of recycling, and scrap, you're buying and selling material regularly. If you're doing it as a hobby, that's an entirely different thing. Uh, Richard's still here. He's doing a little bit of work in the background while he's listening. Very cool. Freaking Awesome came by to say hi. Welcome. Great to have you here. Irish is not on for another hour, so we'll go on for a bit here before we shut down, and then there'll be a little bit of a break between the two streams. No big deal. No big deal. Hey Andy, yeah, time changes really got things messed up for folks not here in America. I apologize for that. I hate these daylight saving times things. Just like, why do we do this anymore? We should have put an end to this a long time ago. It doesn't make any sense anymore these days. It might have made sense a long time ago, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. It depends on who you want to believe, but yeah, I just don't see much sense in it anymore. It just creates a lot of confusion for folks. Some people have a really hard time with that 1 hour difference, and then in the case like with Irish and I, where our streams are kind of tag teamed along with then Solar's after his. Yeah, it creates a bit of confusion that doesn't necessarily need to be there, and then I'm sitting there thinking to myself, okay, well, do I go at 2 p.m. or do I delay to 3 p.m. so that I line up cleaner with Irish? But a lot of people are used to me starting at 2 p.m. So, yeah, I figured, you know what? So there's a gap in there. And sometimes these discussions go long. So I figured, yeah, if there's a gap in between, that's fine. If I go on for a while longer, that's fine too. You never know what kind of questions might come up that will keep us talking for a while. So, um, uh, Electronic Scrapper is saying that their yard only accepts one converter a day. Very interesting. Very interesting. Um, so, catalytic converters become a real theft issue. And every state and local authority has come up with interesting ways to deal with it. In some cases, you have to provide documentation that proves that you were the owner of the vehicle that the catalytic converter came off of. In some cases, you just need to show that you're a business that would routinely deal with catalytic converters. And the problem with that became that some of the criminal elements just started a legitimate LLC and said that they were a body shop or a car repair shop or a recycling business, and so they legitimized the fact that they were selling 10 or 20 catalytic converters at a time. And it got, it took a while before the law caught up with them and realized that, well, yeah, you're a legitimate, you're a business, right? You're an LLC or whatever, but the fact that you're stealing catalytic converters and then selling them as a business doesn't mean that it's legit. Okay, you're still stealing catalytic converters. So yeah, so there's a lot of places that get really testy with that. Sometime, but and then there's other places where all you have to do is show a copy of your driver's license, and they'll buy it from you. So it's different all over the country. uh, Roger, that's funny. I like that. Oh man, yeah, that I yeah makes perfectly good sense. I get it. uh, Taking energy away from the grid for smelting and the energy needed to run one data center can create a power deficit. Not quite sure where you're going there. Freaking awesome with the. Um, uh, yeah, I'm not exactly sure where you're going with that, but I think it's interesting that both the smelting operations and the data centers use a lot of energy, a lot of energy. You Now the smelting operation, well, they probably run 24/7 because if you don't want to be cooling a furnace down and then heating it back up again because that's a huge wasted energy sink. So I got to believe that most smelting operations run 24/7 so that they're not, because the other thing is not only are you using a lot of energy to reheat a plant, but if you let the stuff get cold, man, that can really mess up the works, right? That can damage the equipment. So smelting operations and data centers going 24/7, using an awful lot of energy, a lot of energy. Um, yeah, and I wonder what the comparison is. I bet you that information's out there. I ought to look into that. And I'm going to make a note. Make a note to look at compare smelters versus AI data center. That'll be interesting to see what uses more energy. Yeah, yeah. And one of the things that would be that even here in the U.S. that would be really problematic is so Hawaii does not do daylight savings time, and so when I was stationed in Hawaii, it'd be bad enough that we would have to, be either up at or stay up for ridiculous hours to get back, to talk with Washington D.C. and that kind of thing. But then you also had to adjust for the time zone changes. That would just, you know, play havoc for a while. And invariably, somebody would show up late to a conference call or something like that. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense anymore. Our modern day society, it just doesn't make sense. So I don't know why we still do it. Um, so Freedom Scraps is saying, make sure you're buying your own solar system, beholden to no one. Um, I think it's a very interesting discussion about having your own solar system, because there's a lot that goes into deciding whether or not a solar system makes sense for you. Uh, And if you believe that you get enough sun that it's worth doing, then you definitely want to bring in a consultant who will do a solar analysis and do the math to let you know, yeah, can you generate enough energy? And should you then be charging a battery pack so that you can, run the house at night? And we have a golden retriever here who wants my attention. So Lulu's in the office with me here. I don't know. Here, wait a minute. You guys got to see this. You guys got to see this. Hang on a second. Lulu, go get mommy.
You didn't even check to see if I was dead.
Go get mommy. All right. So Lulu has now gone off to go with mommy.
You told him, didn't you?
Let's see, what do we got here? Living in the States, I had to ask the same question, and they're good to know. Hope your day is. Yeah, so you need to know what you could do with that solar power. There's also, can you sell it back to the grid or not? That's a big one, right? So um, the in some states you can, and locales, you can sell it back to the grid if you're making more than you need. In some states they don't let you do that. So there's a whole lot going on when it comes to solar that you need to look into before you make the commitment. But if you can do it, if you can make enough electricity to run your house and sell some back to the grid, or even just take care of yourself and power up a battery wall, and yeah, I mean, that's fantastic. It's a great thing to do if you can. So definitely something to think about. Yeah, for some reason, she decided to camp out in the office today. I don't know why. And then all of a sudden, well, so she heard Mrs. Shark outside the office. And so she's like, yeah, mommy's up. I want to go see mommy. Mommy's out there. Come on, I want to go see mommy now. Yep, good to see you. Freaking awesome. All right, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and shut things down here. We've got about 45 minutes before Scrapping Irish goes live, which is fine. You all take your time, get yourself some snacks, recharge a little bit. And I do have the autoplay enabled. So what will happen is when I shut this down, it's going to take you over to Scrapping Irish, but he won't have started yet. So you'll see the standby screen. And Scrapping Irish will get started here in about 45 minutes, and we'll have a lot of fun over in Ireland, and we'll see what's going on over there. You never know what's going to happen with the discussion in Ireland because it's all Q&A based. So, but from his thumbnail, it looks like he's got some interesting questions that he's going to be asking about EVs and solar panels and stuff. So I'm really curious to see how that one's going to play out. All right, I'm going to make myself some fresh decaf, grab a little snack, and I'll see you over in Ireland in a little while. Take care, everybody.